free to share at any point if you have something to add, because we're in this together and everybody has different ideas and are creative in different ways, and we learn from each other. That's some of the most fun ways to learn, right? So even when you're a beginner, some of your questions or some of your thoughts might be a way that we can learn from you as a beginner with some fresh eyes, right? Have you heard that expression, fresh eyes? So my background in photography is that I got my first camera when I was 10 years old. So I see some of you are in the 3rd grade. There's some junior high kids. So early on, this sounds like something that you've been interested in. I was in high school, I did photography club. So if you all don't have photography club in your schools, I would suggest, if you have a passion in this, it might be something you can organize, right? So 4-H is a great way to explore photography, but also it might be something that you do on your own. Just, you know, you've heard of book clubs. Maybe you start a photography club. You all learn along the way, learn from each other. So then when I went to college, I have a degree in communications. So most of my career has been from photography, from like a marketing, communications, public relations type. So doing photography for websites and blogs and like company newsletters and e-newsletters and e-news. That's a considerable amount of time that I've spent in. But then before that, a really good learning ground was I was a photographer for a few newspapers. So our local Sullivan Daily Times, I was a photographer reporter for that newspaper. And then I also, because I have a passion for 4-H, I am a former 10-year member in 4-H in Marion County, and I now live in Sullivan County. But I wanted to put two passions together, photography and 4-H. So I was the Sullivan County 4-H fair photographer for many years, and it's been some time ago, but that might be something that you have, you can offer your skills at your fair or in the future, or doing 10-year member pictures or queen contest, or just kind of getting your feet wet in a couple of different areas that mesh. So photography plus another interest, right? Put those together and learn along the way as you go. So that's a little bit about me. So let's get started with, we want to explore photography today, some of the basics. And one of the things I want to suggest, and maybe you already do this, but I have kept a notebook where if I see an article or if I see a photo that I like, I will put that in my notebook. But it also could be where you bookmark something on the internet. Just find a way that you can put all of your photography thoughts and things that you learn in one or two different places. So maybe online and in print, but it can look like anything. So any sort of a notebook, if you have like a spiral notebook, it doesn't have to be fancy, just where you can put your thoughts and your ideas. So maybe you have a list, maybe you make a list of what you like to take pictures of, or wow, I'd really like to, like maybe you go on an excursion in Amish country and take scenery photos of homes and communities. Put that down, jot that down if you have that idea. Like have a notebook where you put all of your photo thoughts. It can even look like a spiral or like a 3-ring binder that you can put ideas in. Like I see a photo and I think, ooh, that's one that I can do. I'd like to do that for a job or for fun. And then I'll see photos on websites and I'll jot that down. You can even jot it down, just kind of sketch it out. You don't have to print it. You can just sketch it out. I've done that a lot. Like before I go on a photography job, I'll take a few notes about what I want to take photos of. And that reminds me, so that when you're in the moment, you just can't remember everything. So keeping good notes and keeping good files is a good beginner and intermediate and advanced tip. So keep everything organized in the same place. But so I've got a couple cameras here. Tabby, can we have everybody in the chat box? Maybe you'll tell if you take most of your pictures on your phone, or if you have what kind of a camera you have. What are you working with? Do you have an DSLR camera? Do you have a point and shoot camera? What type of equipment are you taking pictures with? And you might have more than one, so share what you have. Phone.
DSLR. Lots of people using their phones. Canon. Couple Canons, a Nikon camera, phone and DSLR.
Okay. Okay, so that's great. Thank you. So it seems like a phone, if you don't have a phone yourself, then you have one close to you a lot of the times, right? So a phone is really easy to grab those when you're not really planning on taking, when it's not really a photo shoot, you're just grabbing your phone. But let's go over the DSLR. One of the first things that we want to talk about is what your camera, the things on your camera. So everybody probably knows that this is the lens, right? And a lens is on everything. You even have a lens on your phone, right? So on this camera, it's the lens, and it may be a different size on all DSL. There's a lot of different sizes of lens, right? On the point and shoot camera, your lens is right here in front. And on your phone, you're going to have the lens here up in the, so all cameras, camera phone or cameras will have a lens. Now, when it comes to the viewfinder, these are things that photographers talk about, and it's as you're learning, when someone talks about go to your dial, or when you're reading something to learn, go to your mode. So your modes, you're on this DSLR camera is here on the side. So as you're starting out, it's a good idea to keep your camera in auto. So auto just means that the camera is going to do a lot of that settings for you, right? So when you're going out to take pictures outside or inside, the camera is going to do the auto focus for you. The auto, the camera decides, oh, there's light, or oh, it's dark. And the camera's going to do a lot of that work for you, right? So the shutter, sometimes we call it the trigger or the shutter. So the button for where you're taking your photos, right? It's all going to be different. So on your camera, I happen to have a iPhone, and there's a couple of different ways that you can use the shutter on a phone. You can use the dot on the bottom, or you also have the side buttons. That's what they're called, buttons, to take the photo. So does anybody know how long photography has been around? How old photography is? How many years do you think? How many years ago do you think photography started? You can unmute and say it, or you can put it in the chat, whichever way. Somebody tell me, what do you think?
We got 160 in the chat box.
Whoa.
Late 1800s.
Oh, Ariel, you're good. 160 years, 150 years. You're close. So 200. So 200 years old. Photography is about 200 years old. So before photography was what we, you know, it didn't start out the way we do it today, obviously. There were really big cameras and it was just a lot different back then. And even before photography, there was it's an art. So we had drawing pictures and writing tells a story. So photography tells a story, and we can do that in a lot of different ways. So everybody, just having a camera does not make you a photographer, right? But having a camera is important. It doesn't always matter what type of camera you have, but it depends on your goals and what you're trying to achieve with your camera, and that would tell you what choices you need to make and what equipment you want. So photography means equipment, it means technique, lighting, and composition. And we'll go through a few of those things here in a little bit. But so get used to your camera, go over your user guide, read your user guide. I know I don't usually like to read user guides, so with anything I might purchase, but I love to read my camera user guide because that's where I learn. It's a cheat sheet. So, something I want to try, get out your user guide and flip through, and it's also a reference. So once you've read through there and gotten familiar with it, you can dog ear some pages, and online you might take some screenshots of an online user guide to keep the ones that you know you'll use more often, so that it can be a reminder of how to do certain things that you want to do with your camera. So don't just put that user guide aside. Go back to it often. It's really along with what modes and what you can do with your camera. So I'm going to switch over the screen. I'm going to share my screen and show. I've got a PowerPoint here. That I'm going to bring up. Okay, so we went through some things on the camera, our shooting modes and the flash. Over here on top, the flashes, the different places, and even our phones have flashes. So just set it in a mode and practice in those modes, right? So just practice, practice, practice. So when it comes to filing photos, can everybody, Tabby, if they can tell me if they have been taking pictures for a little while and they file their photos, are they filing them on the computer, or are they uploading them to Google Photos or Flickr?
So yeah, if you guys want to post that in the chat box and let us know if you're filing, what you're doing with where you're filing.
And this is where we're going to learn from each other. So if someone has a way that they file that's different and we've not heard of, then
Couple computers.
Good.
Mostly computers, what's it looking like?
Okay. Okay, so some tips on filing, because filing is something, if you don't start it from the beginning, it gets unwieldy if you've been taking pictures for a long time. and you don't know, you don't know where, you have an idea of a photo that you want to find, but it's in so many different photos that you don't know where it is. So a couple of tips on how to file and how to be organized from the beginning is to have your file tree already figured out before you take the photos. And this takes a little bit of time, and you may redo it a little bit at the beginning. But if you're downloading them to the computer, you will start a folder. So for instance, there's a couple of different ideas here. Your filing tree could look like 2019 or 2020 could be the first folder. And then the folder within that folder could say the month. And then a folder within that could say like first birthday, or my cousin's first birthday, or my 13th birthday, some way that will tell you where all the like photos are. So you can just start somewhere and start using a filing system for a little while to see if you like it. I tend to like the year first and then go from there. And depending on what kind of photos you're taking, so maybe you would have one folder would just say 4-H project, right? So all of your ideas would go into that 4-H project 2020 folder so that you stay organized and you don't get something confused with, say, 2 years ago, a photo you took, an older photo. And that does, and as you do that, as you take your photos, that's even better, because you don't want to have to try to think about where you took that photo, what date it was. You want all of that work to be done as you do it. And then another idea is to have, so I also have family. So I'll say like my family, my cousins, any reunions or Christmas pictures that we take. I'll have family as the top tier folder, and inside that would be the year. And then inside that folder would be vacation or Christmas. Those are just some ideas, and you can come up with your own full filing tree. It's hard to say. But along the way, if you just put all of your photos, good and bad, in that folder, it's probably not the best idea, because it's going to take up space. And then if you're putting bad photos in your folder, you're not going to want to have those around forever. So the pictures that you file away should be ones that you want to keep, or ones that you're considering keeping. And so delete the bad ones as you take them on the camera, or if you're downloading all of them, delete them while you're in the process of downloading, so that you just get all of those bad ones out of the way. Maybe pick the best 3, or you decide how many, maybe the best 10, maybe the best 5, but getting the best ones filed will help you in the long run, and keep you from having so many to go through that it's unwieldy, and then it's no fun anymore, right? Okay, so if anybody has any questions about filing, go ahead and unmute or put that in the chat. But just a good tip to start filing from the beginning. Okay. Okay, how about so we want to talk about eyes for a minute. Does everyone know that you have a dominant eye? Does everybody know what your dominant eye is? I have an exercise for us to do right now so that we can decide, so that we'll know what our dominant eye is. So everybody, I'm hoping you'll do this, because then you'll know for sure what your dominant eye is. So wherever you are, pick something out on the wall or at a distance or outside. You're going to point your finger at that object, okay? Everybody do this. Point your finger at something in the distance, and without moving your head or your finger, close one eye. Okay, now do the same thing, closing the opposite eye. Now, when you have done both sides, the eye that was open and your finger did not move at all or as much, that is your dominant eye. Okay, everybody tell in the chat, tell us which eye is dominant, your right or your left. What did you, and then if you knew that already, does it make sense or are you surprised? I have
Mostly
a right.
right.
Mostly right?
Yep, I saw one left, I think.
Okay, good. So your dominant eye, if we talk about dominant eye for a minute, so when you're taking pictures, you should keep your eyes open. Both eyes should be open when you're taking a photo, but your dominant eye should be the one looking through the viewfinder, right? So some people are surprised by that. You see a lot of people taking a picture with a DSL camera with their eye closed. And I'll have to tell you, I tend to do that myself. But when you really relax and you think about opening both eyes, then you're looking through the viewfinder with that dominant eye. That is when you're going to get the sharpest, the best photo. So that's something to practice right away, right? Like taking pictures with both eyes. Now I'll say it's really easy to take pictures with your phone with both eyes open, duh. But when you look through the camera, it's something to practice. So I have it's my left eye is the dominant one. So I shut my right eye and take photos with my left eye. It is hard for me to keep my eyes open, but I practice it all the time. So there's a couple different ways you can zoom in. So once you've got which eye you know is crisper, the one that you can see through the best and make the best shooting with, then you have the option of zooming in. So there's a couple of different ways that you can zoom in. That's some photography talk, right? So you can walk up to the subject. You can just use your feet to get closer. Or if you have a camera that has a zoom lens, or you do have a zoom feature on your phone, you can zoom it in. Now, on your phone zoom, it's not going to be the best quality. That is one thing that I have found when zooming in with my phone, the quality is not as good as if I walk up closer to my subject with my feet. So using your phone, it's probably best to zoom in by walking up and getting closer to your subject. But when it comes to those DSLR cameras, then the zooming in is where you're moving that lens, rotating the lens to bring the subject closer to you without walking closer. And then there might be times when you want to back up as well. I've got a photo here. Here's one. Okay, so zooming in and zooming out. So the photo on the left is where I'm at a distance. I've walked away from my subject in order to get the whole tent and those decorations on the side of the tent. But my focus, what I'm trying to take a photo of, are the people in the Halloween costumes. So I took that picture far away to get the whole scene, but then in that moment I thought, wow, there's a lot of clutter. I'm really trying to take pictures of them in their Halloween costumes, so I need to get closer. So this was a photo with my phone, and so I walked up and got closer to the Halloween costumes and took that next photo on the right. So which one is more fun to look at? Which one is more appealing to the eye? One can argue either way, but I like the one on the right better. And the only reason I can say that is that I had something in mind from the beginning. I wanted a picture of the people in the Halloween costumes, and so I had to get closer in order to make that a more interesting photo, right? So we can see their costumes more up close, and that makes it more interesting. So that was my subject. If I was if I was trying to talk about the decorations on the side, that's another story. They're in there, but this was my subject, and so I got closer. So I walked with my feet on that one. I did not use my camera to zoom in. So if I go back a couple of slides, we're going to talk about portrait mode and landscape mode. So this is we have two pictures here, and one is landscape and one is portrait. This is something that will come up a lot as you're doing photography, because you want to be able to get the best version of your subject. And again, it's what you have in mind. So not everybody is going to have the same thing in mind, but when you're going after a certain subject or a certain photo, then you want to consider which way to hold your camera. So in portrait mode, you're going to hold your camera up and down, right? So portrait mode means a tall. You're going to have a tall picture. So on this slide, the portrait mode is the picture on the right. And so then landscape mode, you can which is also called horizontal mode. So horizontal or landscape, and if you think of landscape photography or scenery, it's easy to remember landscape, getting the whole scenery wide. So landscape would be wide and portrait would be tall. And whenever you're taking pictures of people, one of the rules is that if you're only taking pictures, if you're taking a picture of one or two people, the rule is to take it in a tall or portrait mode. If you're taking photos of people and there's 3 or more people, so you have a group of people, then it's best to do horizontal or landscape mode. And that's just kind of a rule. There are some instances though. Go ahead,
Sure.
Tabby.
Quick question. Is left photo landscape and right photo portrait?
Yes. Yes. So the wide shot is the one on the left. So that's the whole field of flowers. And then the one on the right is the portrait, and that's just up close of one of those flowers in that whole field. So I was going to say, so if one way that I like taking landscape mode with people, with only 2 people, is if you're getting artsy, or if you are doing really close up of just the faces of 2 people, then you can do that. That's better landscape mode. So just play with it. Practice, practice, practice. Do it both ways and see what you like. So take a photo landscape of one person and take a photo portrait of one person and see which one you like better. I think I have another picture. Okay, here's another portrait in landscape mode. So the photo this time, the portrait mode is on the left of the screen. So the tall photo, the tall up and down photo, portrait mode. And if you want to remember, portrait has a T in it for tall. That's another way you can remember portrait and tall, or single or one. And then landscape is that wider version. So there's the windmill. There's one focal point in the windmill on this photo that's portrait on the left. And the one that is on the right includes more of the larger scene, which we want to show sometimes. We want to show, we want to back up and we want to zoom out sometimes to show a bigger version of what we see. But those are just the different ways, portrait and landscape. And I think that gets confusing sometimes. So it's good to have some tips on how to remember which way to take your photo. Okay, so back on, we want to, Okay, with having being a photographer has a lot of responsibility. Not only keeping track of your photos, because you want to be able to share those with others. Photos make great gifts. So if you know you have a great photo of your cousin and you want to share that with your family, then everybody always loves that, right? But so with responsibility comes making sure you take care of your equipment. So what can you do to keep your camera from being damaged or lost? If anyone has any stories of if you've ever had a camera damaged or lost and what happened and what you wish you would have done differently, then you can unmute and share that story, or tell us in the chat box. But I have a friend who had a DSLR. She had gone on vacation with her family to New York City, and she had her camera in a camera bag similar to this. So everything was put in its place and it was protected in her bag. But they took the shuttle or the bus and she laid her camera bag next to her on the bus and went and got to talking with her family. And when they went to get off the bus, her camera was gone. So someone had stolen her camera while she was on vacation in New York City. And that in itself is horrible, but it wasn't their first day in New York City. So she had taken hundreds of pictures that were lost with the camera, right? So we want to be responsible and we want to think about when we're in public and when we're around people, that we want to keep our camera on ourselves. So use that strap, use the strap and put it around your neck or put it around your body as you're traveling along so that that camera doesn't get stolen. So does everybody have a camera bag or some way that they keep their phone in their pocket? They're always protecting it, right? So if anybody has any stories about if you've had something broken or lost, anybody saying anything?
Looks like everybody's using camera straps if they use a traditional style camera, but no damaged cameras. I do have a story, but mine's a little less out of my control. Around 2012, my apartment flooded from a flash flood and my camera got completely soaked, and we did try drying it out, but very little hope, and it was wrecked. The company, so I use an Olympus, and Olympus was pretty good about it. They gave me a discount on my next purchase of camera, but still an expensive thing to replace.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. That's great. So yeah, so maybe it was out of your control, like you say, but maybe there is something based on these stories or stories that you hear from other people. Maybe that's how you can make some choices with really protecting that camera. Because if you're like me, that's your baby. You really love your camera and you want to keep it for as long as you can. So make sure you have a camera bag. So with my point and shoot camera, I even have something that protects it in there too. And it has a way that I can clip it on. It's got one of those carabiners that I can clip it onto my shorts or onto a bigger bag or something like that. And it could also be a strap too. You might have a strap that you add onto that bag. I should think about that. So that you can put it around your neck or on your bag. So that's great. Everybody's had good luck so far, and that's good to hear. We hope you never have a bad story. And then being around in 4-H and maybe you're in the hog barn or wherever, make sure you keep those cameras in a safe place so that things don't get sprayed on or just random things that are happening around the fair. So great, that's good deal. Okay, so let's talk about light. There's a couple different ways that you can think about light. And so one is natural light. So natural light happens outside and inside, right? So how can it happen inside? How can you get natural light inside a building or inside your house? Any ideas?
Windows, they're coming through on the chat box. Ring lights.
Perfect. You all are so smart. I knew it. So keeping close to a window or just using natural light, again, depending on your subject, depending on what photo you're trying to take, you may want less light, you may want more light. So natural light has to be, it's a favorite, right? So natural light sure is a favorite. And there's a lot of really cool things that can, really cool photos that we can get with natural light. The photo here that's shown on the screen, it has some natural light coming. If you can see the right side of this girl's hair, it's really more on her hair. You can see the sun is coming in from her, it'd be her left side, but the right side of the photo. So this was taken towards the end of the day, so more like sunset. When that light is more golden, we say that light is more golden. At the end of the day, it's warmer. Those are some warmer tones in the light. So look how those are weeds all around her, but look how cool the effect of the sun shining on those weeds really makes them shine and really it makes a good frame. We make a good frame around this girl's face. So the focal point of the photo is the girl, and we framed it with those weeds and let the sun really put a glow on her, right? So there's a little bit of artificial light coming from the front on her face, because if there wasn't some artificial light coming through, then her face would have been totally dark, and not totally dark, but darker than I wanted as the photographer, right? So another way that this photo could have been taken was with total natural light, which would have put shadows on her face, which would have also been gorgeous, right? So there's a couple of different ways as a photographer, you make some decisions on what you hope the outcome will be, and you try it a couple of different ways and take several photos, maybe 10 photos of just this, and take it different ways and see which one you like best, and then delete the bad ones, delete the ones you don't like. So then artificial lighting might be if you're in a gym, at school, or in a room where there's no windows. Artificial light would be the lights that are on in your house, in the ceiling, the lamps. And then artificial light can also be what? On your camera, you have a flash. So your flash is either attached to your phone or your camera, or it's a detached flash, like the one I'm holding, that will need to be added to your DSLR, and that's an artificial light. And there's a lot of different ways to use your detachable flash or your pop-up. We call it a pop-up flash on the top of your camera. And there's all kinds of ways to use light, artificial light, and trying to make your subject stand out the way that you would like, or that you want to practice. So practice, practice, practice. Just take lots of pictures. Take them different ways using natural light and artificial light, and see which ones you like best and what works best in certain situations for you. So if there's any questions about light, just go ahead and add it in the chat, or unmute yourself. Okay, we'll go for a few more minutes and then we'll open it up to questions at the end. And before we go, I'm going to issue a challenge. So a challenge will be what photos you'll work on before Monday. And this is going to be fun. Okay. So when we talk about a focal point, we can also call that our subject, or what we're trying to, the main part of the photo that we're trying to get. So when you know what your focal point is, so in the photo that I just showed you, the focal point was the girl, and the focal point was her face and her smile. So in order to focus on what I want to take a picture of, I want to get rid of the clutter. So maybe there is some of that, when I showed the picture of the Halloween costumes, I would consider, since the focal point were those 5 people in the middle of the frame, the clutter would have been the decorations and the tent around them. So I considered that clutter for what I was going for that day. So look, when you look through your viewfinder, you want to check for the extras. So if you're taking a picture of a tree, you don't want your camera bag in the picture. You don't want something else that's going to distract from the tree, right? So you want to be know what your focal point is, which is what you're taking the photo of, and then make sure there's no crazy things, extras. So there's times when you want to take a picture of a person outside and you need to look around your focal point and see maybe there's a tree branch coming out of your dad's ear. I mean, you don't want that, right? So that would be an extra. That would be a clutter. So as you're setting up your photo, you're looking through the viewfinder, make sure there's no extras that you need to, maybe there's a trash can that you need to move out of the way. Maybe there's certain things that you actually need to walk up and move. But then there also, if you see that branch coming out of your dad's ear and that's not the picture that you want, then you'll have to move the way that you look at the group. Maybe you take a step up or down or to the right or left in order to get that branch in a different space, right? Or to get away. You could also move your subject. So move the subject away from the branch. There's a lot of different ways you can get rid of the clutter, right? So get rid of the clutter. So composition, everybody, have you heard the word composition before? This just means how you set up your photo, right? So check all around your subject to compose your photo. You wanna, the composition is what makes up the photo and how you arrange it, how you arrange the photo that makes it most appealing to the eye, to your eye first, and then to anyone who might be looking at it. Okay, so there's different ways to take photos. So the one on the screen is a bird's eye view. You're above, maybe this is from a second story of a building or of a house and looking down at this girl on the porch. So that's a bird's eye view of someone. So rather than just standing next to somebody and taking their picture, kind of get creative and think of bird's eye view. And so if that's a bird's eye view, what's a bug's eye view? Anybody know what that means? If you want to take a photo from a bug's eye view, how are you taking that photo?
You're taking it from the ground because bugs stay on the ground.
Perfect. So maybe you're on the ground and your subject is standing above you, or maybe it's your pet, maybe it's your dog, maybe it's anything. But if you're lying on the ground and you're taking the photo up, maybe you're taking the photo up the stairs, maybe you're taking the photos on the ground and just looking up at the sky. A bug's eye view at clouds, a bug's eye view of branches high up in the tree. So lie on your stomach and take a photo. Lie on your back and look up and take a picture. One of my favorite things to take pictures of architecture and buildings is to get as close as I can to the building and look up and take a photo from, and to see how the shape changes of that building. Those are some really interesting ways to get creative with your photos, because everybody looks at everything straight on, but as a photographer, we want to give them a different view, right? So lean over, bend sideways, do whatever you want to get a different view of your subject. Get creative. Okay, so we just have a couple of minutes to touch on editing. And if anyone has any favorite phone editing apps, you can share that in the chat. There might be an app that someone has really had good luck with and that they want to share with this photo community, our little community we have started here today. So some editing, when we talk about editing photos, on the screen are some ways that we edit. So cropping a photo is when you take a larger version of a photo and then you zoom in by cropping, and you can do that. There's a lot of ways on your phone to crop, but then when you're on your computer, there's different software that allows you to crop your photo. And then exposure is how your photo looks. And whenever you're on your phone, actually, even if you have a DSLR camera, going to your phone and playing around with the editing modes on your phone is a really great way to find out what something means. So just flipping through, like the photo on the screen, flipping through those circles below and seeing what happens to your photo will give you a really good idea of what those things mean. It might lighten it, darken it. You can even change photos from color to black and white really easily with your phone. And then that's something that's a great way to learn from a beginner standpoint all of the editing marks. So did anybody have any apps that they use on their phone? Did anybody share?
We've got Visco, Avery, Clips, and iMovie. Okay.
Good deal. So if anybody wants to jot any of those down, if those are new to you, you might want to check those out on your phone. And then also, like, just going to your app store and looking around for free, look for a free editing app is a great way to just download something, use it for a little while, learn from it, and then just keep doing it. So. Okay. Is everybody ready for your challenge? We have the photo challenge that we have this time, our first photo challenge. So how this is going to work, we didn't really go into big detail yet. So each week we are going to, each Friday, we will issue a new photo challenge that you can work on over the weekend and email to us by 11:59 p.m. on Sunday night, so that on Monday morning, each Monday morning when we come together at 10 o'clock, so the one on Monday will be 30 minutes long. Today was an hour just to get us started, and then the last one will be an hour so that we can wrap up and get some judges' comments and get really go over some things that maybe answer questions. So on Monday, what we're going to do is go through and look at everybody's photos from the challenge in a presentation. So the challenge we have this time is by Sunday night, I would like for you all to go out and take the same photo 3 times at different times of the day. So who wants to get up at 8 a.m. and take a picture over the weekend? Everybody? Yes. No, I see thumbs down. Okay. So if you don't want to get up at 8 a.m., try it at 9 a.m. If you don't want to get up at 9 a.m., do it at 10 a.m. And if you don't get up, so do the same photo as soon as you get up in the morning, then do it again at noon. And if you got up at noon, that's your first one. And then take it again at 7 o'clock p.m. So whether it's in your yard or if you're going to your favorite spot to take pictures, what's going to come into play here, right? Weather will come into play, lighting will come into play, clutter, all of the things that we're going to see, different things throughout the day on these 3 times that you take the same picture. We're going to see if all 3 pictures look exactly the same or if there are differences in the picture. And I think for simplicity's sake, we want to upload just one. So choose your favorite photo, choose what you think is the best photo out of those 3 and submit that email. And there's an email there on the screen. So it's Sullivan, CES. So SULLIVAN CES purdue.edu. That's the email that you will email all of your photos to for all these 5 weeks. And so do that before midnight on Sunday, and we will have all those, everybody's photos will be compiled into, and we'll show those on the screen, and we'll learn from those photos. So I can't wait to see what you all come up with. This is going to be awesome. Is everybody up for the challenge? Give me some thumbs up. Thumbs up for the challenge. All right. We're going to have a lot of photos. Love it. Okay, so Tabby, can you think of anything that I've forgotten to share about all of that?
I have one question that came through earlier. Are Canon Rebel T6s good cameras?
They are very good cameras. Yeah. So a lot of times when you start out with Canon, one tip would be stay with, like, it's a lot more affordable. So if you bought Canon as your first camera, then if you buy a lens, you would add that to that Canon. And then you've got then you're on a trail of Canon, right? So does everybody understand? So you're going to be able to have detachable lenses maybe, and be able to buy more equipment for that Canon or that Olympus or that Nikon or whatever direction you head in. Sometimes people stay with that for a lifetime for that reason, right? But yes, that's a really good camera. Good job. That's great.
And one more question. What is a Salon Print?
A Salon Print would be, Tabby, do you have examples of a Salon Print? Like, so that's one photo that would be exhibited at the fair, right?
Yep, and I drawn a blank for some reason.
So a Salon Print would be when and I don't have the 4-H manual in front of me, so you'll have to read your manual on how you submit a Salon Print. But a Salon Print is one photo, and it's in your 4-H manual, it will tell you the size that it needs to be. So follow the rules, and I hate to say too much more because I don't want to confuse you, but go in your manual and read what size photos. So if it's an 8x10 and you need to have, you'll also have to have a mat or not, or have a backing on there. So you really need to follow the handbook to do exactly what the handbook tells you to do for that Salon Print entry. Good question. Thank you.
All right, I don't see any more questions.
So did anybody learn anything? Thumbs up. Did you learn anything? Did you take anything good away from today? Today was basics. So then what's the next one? Tabby, do you remember? What's our topic next? After Monday. So Monday we'll go over our pictures. Where it's in the email. I think it's careers. It's careers.
I think you're right.
Okay, so the next time we have so Monday we'll come together and we'll talk about some more tips as we look at the photos that you took and that you submitted. If anybody has questions on how to submit your photos, so you're just going to email it to that email on the screen there. We also emailed the email address in the email that your parents got with the link to this, so that it's also in that email that your parents have. So then after Monday, when we come together a week from today on the Friday, we will be talking about careers in photography. So if you really think that that's something that you want to do, or even if you never thought of it, it's going to be fun to hear about different ways you can incorporate photography into careers. So we'll have some information from college folks and those who have done photography as a career. So good job. Hey, we made it to the weekend. It's Friday. So thanks for coming, everybody. You did a great job by showing up today. We're really glad to have such a large community on our photo workshops for these 5 weeks. And we look forward to all your questions and everybody sharing over these next 5 weeks. Tabby, do you have anything to add?
I don't think so. I'm looking forward to next week to see what you guys come up with.
Me too. All right. Everybody have a great weekend. Get out there and take some great pictures. Practice, practice, practice.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.